waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so.
One of the strangest places on the ocean's floor was only just discovered in the 1990s. I might agree it's one of a handful of people to ever see it in person.
Without a doubt, one of the most amazing things that I had ever seen in the bottom of the ocean. It was while filming for Blue Planet. It was in the Gulf of Mexico. And I noticed there's something out in the distance. Couldn't tell exactly what, but it looked like a dark band. And as we approached it, the dark band became a donut. I saw this donut that was black in the center. What the heck is that? And so as we get closer and closer to it, I noticed that the black band had what appeared to be kind of steam over it. And then I looked, and there was water lapping against the shoreline. This band was a ring of mussels. And inside the ring of mussels was a lake. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm already underwater. We went out over the water in this lake and tried to descend in it and bounced off. It was so super saline and dense that the submarine couldn't go down in it. We literally bounced off, and as we bounced off, we sent ripples heading back to the shoreline. It was insane. I've never seen anything like it.
Coincidentally, a few days after this aired on the television that he had made this discovery, when him and his friend were flying the helicopter, it exploded and he died.
It was this delta that sparked Mike Degree's interest in underwater filmmaking. Degree became famous for his work with Oscar-winning director James Cameron filming the wreck of the Titanic. He was working on a new project with Cameron in Australia when the helicopter he was flying in crashed, killing.
1. Recently discovered in Antarctica are the fossilized remains of the real-life Loch Ness Monster, and the remains date back some 70 million years. Other notable things found under the ice were plant and egg fossils. Could Antarctica have been a green tropical paradise at one point? 2. Mountains resembling pyramids can be found, even showing up on Google Maps. Could this be a sign of an even earlier civilization? 3. Strange entrances can be found all over Antarctica. In 1939, an infamous German political party was sent out to this frozen wasteland for scientific research. Rumor has it that this group built bases under the ice and performed grisly experiments. Could it be true?
You having trouble believing in conspiracy theories? Look no further. Richard E. Byrd, Operation High Jump. Let's get it. In 1947, Richard Byrd and 4,000 other soldiers were assigned to this classified mission called Operation High Jump. From what the soldiers were told, Operation High Jump was just supposed to be an expedition and a scan of the land to make sure that no enemies occupied the area. Because if you guys don't know, Germany, pre-Pearl Harbor, had already occupied Antarctica. And we had just finished World War II, so they could have refled here. And we were currently in a Cold War with Russia, so we definitely wanted to be sure that no enemies occupied the land. So what the government did know, and what the soldiers didn't know, took a wild turn. Richard Byrd and those 4,000 other soldiers came in contact with the Hollow Earth, came in contact with the ancient race and reptilians as well that live within the Hollow Earth. And as stated in his journal, Richard Byrd said that once they came in contact with the ancient race and the reptilians, they fled. They had no choice to flee. Warfare and the technology was too much for theirs, so they had no choice but to flee. As stated earlier, it's noted that Richard Byrd kept track of every single expedition that he did. So of course he was going to take note on Operation High Jump as well. The government knew about this, and they confiscated his journal as soon as Operation High Jump was done. They wanted him to be quiet about it. But here, this is where it get real. In 1957, Richard Byrd did an interview about Operation High Jump, anonymous and as discreet as possible, but very in-depth. It's a documentary on this as well, on Hulu. 3 months after the interview, he apparently died in his sleep. The evidence piles up even more. 1988, Richard Byrd's son was scheduled to give a speech honoring his dad, Richard E. Byrd. He was going to talk about all the accolades he earned, all the expeditions he went on. including Operation High Jump. He was going to tell the truth about it. They knew that this was a possibility, so they had to do something about it. Richard Byrd's son never made it to give the speech about his dad. His body was found in a warehouse 3 weeks later. He apparently died of dehydration. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments, and let me know who I should do next.
4. Found on Google Maps, islands with familiar names of variants can be found throughout Antarctica. Are they named after Greek letters, or could it be a secret code? 5. In 1946-47, Admiral Richard E. Byrd was assigned a U.S. secret mission under the name Operation High Jump to lead a naval armada to Antarctica and find and destroy a hidden German military base. But before the Americans could find the base, they were attacked by flying saucers and were quickly defeated. Some photographs recovered from the mission show an object shaped like a flying saucer in the sky. So is the government hiding something? 6. In Admiral Byrd's secret diary, he confessed to having flown a secret mission across Antarctica. It was there that he claimed to have seen an unknown land with forests and prehistoric animals. He also witnessed flying machines and spoke with humans from an advanced civilization that claimed to live deep within the earth. Could it be true?
So I see some people in my comments saying, why would y'all listen to anything she gotta say? She believes that the earth is flat, blah, blah, blah. I'm about to tell y'all why I believe the earth is flat. And I'm not forcing anybody to believe that the earth is flat, but I'm about to tell you for my reason why I believe the earth is flat. First off, God told Isaiah the difference between a ball and a circle when describing the earth. Yah said he created the earth as a circle and stretched it out. And after that, he put a tent over it to keep us from going outside of the firmament, as he sits on top of it using it as a footstool. This is how he describes the earth. He also said he set the earth on its foundation so it cannot move. A foundation is a flat surface. He says the earth shall never be moved, but scientists says that it's moving 1,040 miles per hour. He also talks about the four corners of the earth. A ball does not have corners, but a flat surface do. He created a firmament over the earth, creating anybody from going in or out, which also proves NASA is fake. He also talks about the four corners of the earth. A ball does not have corners, but a flat surface do. As I said, God told Isaiah the difference between a ball and a circle when describing the earth. If y'all don't know, the Hebrew Bible was the first Bible. The word circle can be described as a compass. The word corner can be described as quarter. He says he sets the earth as a compass. This is what he means when he states the corners of the flat earth. He also said he set the earth on its foundation so it cannot move. A foundation is a flat surface. He says the earth shall never be moved, but scientists says that it's moving 1,040 miles per hour. There was a time that Yah told the sun to stay still and the moon stayed also, meaning it had to be moving for him to tell them to stay still. God also says he would deal with those who added and took away from his word. There was a verse in the Bible that proved that the earth was flat by saying it was flat. But the New International and King James Version has added and took away from God's actual word. And for those who mock and laugh at my videos and duet, remember they mocked and laughed at Noah too when he built that ark. Oh yeah, and I also want to say that NASA is fake. They did not go to the moon. God said he made two greater lights. He created the greater light to rule the day, such as the sun. He created a lesser light to rule the night, such as the moon. Why do you think some days you will see a quarter of a moon, 3/4 of a moon, then see a full moon? That's because it's luminary. It's a light. It's not created as a solid object. So you couldn't land on the moon or the sun if you wanted to. It's a light. God also says he put the moon and the sun inside of the firmament of the earth. But NASA is saying that they gotta go to space just to land on the moon. Come on, don't contradict yourselves, Christians. They even got y'all thinking that other planets exist. Do y'all know the name of these planets came from pagan Roman gods? Don't you think when God said he created the earth, moon, and the sun, he would have said he created other planets? Yeah, your whole life is a lie. Other planets don't exist. I'm pretty sure when God said he created the heavens and the earth, he would have named Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter also. I've been waiting for this question. God says, who commands the sun, and it does not rise? Okay, so on y'all's globe earth, y'all believe that the sun is setting and rising, but in reality, that's just your perspective. The sun and the moon are not setting and rising. The sun and the moon are rotating. The sun is not actually rising and setting. The sun and the moon are rotating. The farther that it gets to the other side of the earth is making it look as if it's going down. Have you guys not heard of a vanishing point? The sun is not setting or rising. The sun and the moon rotates. The farther that it gets from us, it makes it seems like it's setting, as you can tell. And as it comes back around to us, it makes it seem as it's rising. Do y'all remember when I said that God made the world as a compass? Do you get it? Do you get it now? Do you get it now? The sun and the moon are closer than what you think. And it's also smaller than what you think. This makes no sense. Pause and read this. And honestly, if you just stop listening to all of these lies and letting them brainwash you, all this stuff will make common sense. That's all I'm saying. My guy. Now, I don't know if y'all remember me talking about the firmament of the earth. And if you don't, just scroll down and go watch my flat earth video pertaining to the Bible. But I'm about to show y'all something interesting. Alright, well now I'm about to speak to y'all about the waters above the firmament. God says he put water above the firmament and below the earth. Now I want y'all to check something out. I'm about to show y'all a scientist who went deep down into the ocean and tells us what he's seen. He's gonna be telling y'all how he went into the ocean. Pay close attention to what he's saying. He's gonna be telling us how he went into the ocean and how he's seen another pond of water. But how is that possible if he's already underwater?
And inside the ring of mussels was a lake. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm already underwater. And now, over the water in this lake and tried to descend in it and bounced off. It was so super saline and dense that the submarine couldn't go down in it. We literally bounced off. And as we bounced off, we sent ripples heading back to the shoreline. It was insane.
Now remember what I said. God said he put water above the firmament and below the firmament. So this scientist was saying that that was still a pond of water, but it was like jello type water. And it allows you to hit it, but you bounce off. And it also sends ripples through it, just like regular water. Now let me show you a video of a rocket going into the air. This is a video of when they sent a rocket into the sky. They keep saying that the rockets are running out of fuel, but that's not the case. Pay close attention right here. This is when it impacts the dome, the firmament of the earth. As it begins to scrape along it, it sprays water. The water above the firmament. Looks like a motorboat, right? After a while, the rocket finally explodes and sends a ripple tide through the waters above the firmament. Just like what that scientist said when he found what looks like a lake in the ocean. And when they bounced off of it, it sent ripple tides through it. But they got y'all thinking it's the smoke from the rocket. Woo! This study gave me chills. When you actually think about it, it's so crazy. Man, God is good. My guy. I've actually been waiting for this question. I'm about to show you a video how the stars look when you zoom up on them. And if you think I'm lying about that's how stars look like when you zoom up on them, just wait till nighttime hits and I want you to go outside and record a star and keep zooming up on it. Now tell me, this is exactly how it looks, right? Now the water are making those shapes off of sound, frequency, and vibration. Have you ever zoomed up to a star and seen that it was changing colors? Like these ones. That's because the colors are based off wavelength interval and frequency interval. Water is a diamagnetic, which repels a magnetic field. Now watch this video to see where I'm going with this.
This star in a jar is made when a sound wave is passed through a small bubble inside a flask of liquid. And this sound wave makes the bubble do something remarkable. First it expands, then it collapses. And this collapse happens so violently that vapor molecules trapped inside the bubble slam together and heat up so much that the bubble gives off an incredible burst of heat and light, several thousand times a second, giving the appearance of a star.
Those are the words from the science world. Now in the beginning it says this star was made from a sound wave that is passed from a small bubble inside of liquid. Now listen, in the beginning it was the Word, and the Word was God, and with God. He said, let there be light, and there was light. Sound, vibration, the Word of God, water from the firmament. My guy. Alright, so this is part 2. So if you haven't watched part 1, go back to that video, which is before this video, and go watch it before you start to watch this video. Or you're going to be completely lost about this video. Alright, so I don't know if y'all know, but they put magnetics on some people's houses. And they gain electricity from the sun hitting on top of those metal pallets on top of their houses. As I was saying in the first video, water is a diamagnetic. It repels a magnetic field. Now let's go back to talking about the water above the firmament. I know everybody have seen lightning before. But have you ever wondered where the thunder came from? This is the big boom, the thunder, before the lightning strikes down. This is a picture that scientists took when they got on a plane and flew on the top of the clouds when it was lightning and thundering. This is what's coming out of the firmament, the big thunder that you hear before the lightning strikes down. As everybody knows, lightning is electricity. Y'all don't know, but the earth itself is a magnetic field. Now look at this. Nikola Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets to the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibrations. Electrical energy, frequency, and vibration is literally everywhere on Earth. And the Earth actually functions as an energy plate, much like what Tesla created with the purple plate, or coil as the electric magnetic base. Think about the ocean. Stars are actually dancing glimpses of light, interacting with the water above the firmament. Japanese scientist Masaru Emoto came up with a new way to capture messages through water. He'll take samples of water and freeze them, minus 25 degrees. After a few hours, he will analyze the water under a dark field microscope with photographic capabilities in a lab at a constant temperature of minus 5 degrees. He then tested out different audio frequencies and human sound vibrations on each sample. He focused on the way human vibration energy, thoughts, words, and music, and how it affects the molecular structure of water. Here are some of his results of the pictures when he used certain words and music, and how it affected the water. It's similar to the way cymatics work. As the pitch of the tone increases, geometric patterns will form and become more complex. Cymatics, or sound frequency, in water resembles the pulsating pattern of what an actual star looks like when you zoom in on it. So remember, God spoke the word into being, and it was so. Such as words, speech, sound, vibration. He spoke that into being. The stars are from his word, as he spoke it into the water of the firmament. Him speaking created bubbles in the water. With the high enough frequency, the bubbles can burst into light. Electromagnetism actually perfectly explains how our sun and moon rotates on a flat earth. The sun and moon are not round bodies of rock or gas. They are disks that rotate our Earth like a clock, but in a coil-like spiral, dictating the seasons and the climate as it goes. When the sun is beyond the equator ring, the northern hemisphere experiences summer, and the southern hemisphere experiences winter. Inversely, when below the equator, the southern hemisphere experiences summer, and the northern hemisphere experiences winter. And I know a lot of y'all probably wondering like, but I see the sun rise and set every day. But that's not the case. Have you ever heard of a vanishing point? For example, when someone's on a boat in the water and y'all say that y'all see them curve, it's really a perspective. If you get a phone and zoom up to that person in the boat, they're actually just getting farther away. They're not curving on the horizon. It's just your perspective from where you're at. For example,
you can't see the boat with the naked eye, but once we zoom in with a telescope, well, the boat comes right back into view. It did not disappear over a curved body of water. Now let's pan back out to what we would call our regular vision. Here, right about here, you're going to be seeing your vanishing point. With the naked eye, you can't see that. As you can see here, the sun is about 2/3 behind the horizon. But once we zoom in with the telescope, well, it pops right back over the ocean. And there it goes right back behind the horizon. Sorry for the blurriness, it's a little windy on this video actually.
So basically, as the sun is setting, it seems as if it's going down. And as it's rising, it seems as if it's coming up. But in reality, it's just going farther away, as the sun and the moon are rotating the earth. That's why it be dark in some places and light in other places. Because the sun and the moon are rotating around the earth. And the climate change is when it's coming in and farther away, which makes it hotter and cooler, depending how far and close it is.
Disappears due to perspective. And here's another example. The line is tied perfectly even across the counter and the bottles are sitting level on the countertop. Now let's look at it from the counterpoint view.
The Earth is a closed system.
The Earth is a closed system.
We cannot leave the Earth. There's no place to go.
I guess I'm up against the highest, hardest stained glass ceiling. And it may be hard to see tonight, but we are all standing under a glass ceiling right now. It's fine for all this talk about me running to break the big, hard glass ceiling. And although we weren't able to shatter that highest, hardest glass ceiling this time, thanks to you, it's got about 18 million cracks in it. And the light is shining through like never before.
There's a mystery. Scattered around in the sand are thousands of chunks of strange yellow-green glass.
It is really, really a mysterious glass. We scientists are still kind of puzzled how these things form.
And I can't believe we just put the biggest crack in that glass ceiling yet. It's got about 18 million cracks in it.
Test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit. Beyond low Earth orbit. Beyond low Earth orbit.
The kinds of technologies that we're testing out on Space Station are definitely helping us with our goals of going beyond low Earth orbit. So we have a really robust exploration program at NASA.
The plan that NASA has is to build a rocket called SLS, which is a heavy lift rocket. It's something that is much bigger than what we have today, and it will be able to launch the Orion capsule with humans on board, as well as landers or other components to destinations beyond Earth orbit. Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually. The moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to. The moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to. The moon. Enjoy reading now. And I played a lot of sports. And all of that happened in a little town called York, Maine, across the United States from where we're talking to you right now. Hello, my name is...
As I was saying, you can't go outside the firmament of the earth. At this point, you just got to see it through, my boy. My guy. Alright, so we are told that the Earth's magnetic field extends from Earth's interior out into space, where it interacts with solar wind, a stream of charged particles that's caused from emanating from the sun. We are also told that Earth tilts on an axis, and as if there was an enormous ball, magnetic, placed at an angle, in the center of the Earth, which is definitely not true. But they are right on one thing. There is a strong magnetic presence on Earth, and it appears to be located in the north. And that's why compasses point north on a plane, because y'all see it like this. And here's why there's such a strong pulling towards the north. Because the north is actually the center, and south is the entire continent of Antarctica, the ice wall. And east and west is the circular rotation around the north center, with the south on its exterior. That's why it can seem like you're traversing the entire Earth, while traveling east in a straight line. So you end up where you're starting, not because the Earth is a globe and you're traveling in a straight line, but it's because when you keep the compass pointing towards the east, you are in fact traveling in a circle. And that's from speaking on a flat Earth point of view, containing the Bible. If there's any more questions, just comment them down in my comments, and I'll be answering as many as I can. Praise the Most High, Yah our Elohim.
Station has taken an unexpected turn. The astronauts doing the spacewalks will now be wearing snorkels after the last astronaut who performed a spacewalk nearly drowned when his helmet filled with water. Let's get to...
But just my gut inside me said, that's my dive buddy, and I should be with my dive buddy. That's my dive buddy, and I should be with my dive buddy.
But the last spacewalk ended with Italian astronaut Luca Parmitano nearly drowning in his helmet after it started filling with water.
Water is in his eyes now, and it seems to be increasing.
Fellow astronauts quickly pulled him back into the station. When they did, water poured from the helmet.
Hold up. What's that? Oh, cool. A green screen. So much cap. So much. Was the moon landing fake? Part 2. Go check out part 1 for the full context. In part 1, I explained some reasons on why I think there's a possibility that the moon landing is fake. Such as the lunar module looking like a piece of trash. This is a real picture of the lunar module on the moon zoomed in. That thing doesn't even look rain-proof, let alone flight-proof. Straight up crumpled up poster paper, coat hangers, trash bags, and tinfoil. Oh boy. Hey, but it was on TV, so you know it's real, right? Because information is only true when it's on TV or if it comes from school. So another reason why I'm questioning the moon landing is President Richard Nixon used a landline to call the moon. A landline telephone. He used a landline telephone to call more than 200,000 miles away.
I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made from the White House. I just can't tell you how proud we all are.
Sheesh, I need me one of those.
This is Richard Nixon calling from the Earth. I can't tell you enough how proud we are. Have you guys made it to the moon? You guys are the best actors, astronauts.
Buzz, you're a true American hero. Oh, by the way, Buzz, that's a nice hand gesture you're doing there. I wonder what that stands for.
Has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we did it.
But you know, I must be so foolish for questioning this amazing high-tech technology that they can't build anymore because, oh, they lost the technology and it's a painful process to build back. By the way, what is that little propane tank? Is that for when they have a barbecue on the moon or something? Like, if I'm a clown for questioning this,
then I guess I'm a clown. Rock me NASA on that rocket ship. Take me to the moon, take me on a trip. Ooh, rock me NASA. You said we can't go there anymore. We lost the technology to knock on the moon's door. Ooh, rock me NASA.
Go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
When you said that just now, did it sound stupid to you?
it's easier to fool people than to convince them they've been fooled. It's crazy how people don't question anything. The only thing most people question nowadays is what fast food they're gonna eat today. Wendy's or McDonald's. Alright guys, and we're done. Yeah, ASHAR Alexandra, I guess I don't understand the science. Like that tinfoil, it must be some high-tech tinfoil. And that little trash bag right here must be that, you know, super high-tech, space hefty trash bag. And that teeny-weeny little propane tank, that must be for the cookout. And that crumpled up poster paper looking tape stuff must be made from the same stuff Captain America's shield is made from. $388 million for this. Look, I know it's hard to accept that you've been bamboozled. I mean, I was there. I also believed in this until I took a closer look. And this trash bag, coat hanger, crumpled up poster paper stuff, it don't look very flight proof. Especially for traveling 200,000 miles. Or more than 200,000 miles. By the way, since space apparently has no air or water, what are rocket ships thrusting against? Submarines move by pushing against water. Planes move by pushing against air. So what are rocket ships pushing against? Your imagination? By the way, who filmed this?
Right away, Houston. Vector good. X5.
Was one of the cameramen left behind on the moon? By the way, what is all that Thanos gemstones coming out? And cut. Good job, boys. There's a reason why Armstrong, Aldrin, and Colin have their own Hollywood star. Because what they filmed was basically a movie. But I know what you're gonna tell me. Go read a science book. Did you go to school? Did you fail science? I've heard it all before. You might have something called cognitive dissonance. It's when some people hold a core belief that is very strong. When they are presented with evidence that works against that belief, the new evidence cannot be accepted. It would create a feeling that is extremely uncomfortable called cognitive dissonance. And because it's so important to protect the core belief, they will rationalize, ignore, and even deny anything that doesn't fit in with their core belief. Now, I've had this before. It is a very difficult thing to accept that you've been bamboozled and that what you grew up thinking was true is actually a lie. But nobody is really harmed by the truth. Self-deception causes harm. Lying to yourself causes harm. Hey, but no hate. I wish you well. God bless you. I hope you come to the truth, and we're out.
That you rotate. So, I mean, like on the space station, how many of these would you have?
7, because we have 7 windows.
What happens if you get a leak on that?
Then you have a leak.
You just have a leak.
And what you would do
is...
You
lose air.
Yeah, you would probably seal the whole cupola off. And then there's probably a plan, I don't know off the top of my head, but there's probably a plan for replacing the mechanism. Might require a spacewalk.
So my question is, how can you operate a lid on the outside of the space station by manipulating something mechanical on the inside of the space station without losing air pressure?
It's called real good engineering.
Orbit, and what responsibilities and jobs are going to be yours when you're up there?
Well, I'm one of the science guys and I'm one of the repair guys. And fortunately, there's lots of science and lots of...
That's not, and that, yeah, no, the ground looks to us like it's standing still.
Did
Did you notice any curvature while we were up there?
No.
No? What'd you see while we were up there?
Just the blue sky, white clouds.
Yeah, is it flat or?
Pretty flat.
Pretty flat?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I was reading a lot of stuff on the flat earth.
Okay, yeah. True.
That's true?
Yep.
Okay, all right, cool.
All right.
God bless, brother.
Did you notice any curvature while we were up there?
Curvature, no.
No? There's no curvature?
It's just all flat.
Casey, how are you, mate? Pleased to meet you guys. There's no way this curvature. We're round and flat, aren't we? Definitely. We are, aren't we? Thank you.
Most pilots know their plane is flying over a plane. A stationary plane. Always a smooth and level flight.
So many times during spacewalks outside the International Space Station, we can see air bubbles rising up. Can you touch on how there are air bubbles in space?
Can you be more specific? Air bubbles?
So yeah, like a lot of times during the footage, the NASA footage, you can see bubbles coming up out of the helmets or kind of from underneath you. How do you explain bubbles in space?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. Now sometimes you get water in the helmet, and it's either from sweat or from the cooling garments. And in some of my spacewalks, I had like water in the helmet, not like I was going to drown in the helmet, but just little bits of water probably came from sweat. Often on the outside of the space station, you'll liberate little pieces of it's a really harsh environment out there, and the outside of the space station gets beat up pretty good. And sometimes, you'll see just little flecks of paint or something that you might have disrupted floating away from the suit. And, that's generally what that is. I've never seen any kind of air bubble anywhere.
Yeah. Could it be that you're filming in an underwater pool and you're not really out there?
From an analytical standpoint, photographic anomalies have to be sought out with an understanding of lighting and shadows. The most straightforward is simple. When objects are lit solely by the sun, as all the scenes on the moon were said to be, after all, lighting equipment was not only impractical, it was unnecessary in bright sunlight, then all shadows, regardless of the landscape, will run parallel with one another and never intersect, as shown by this example. In these seldom seen photographs, obtained from a rarely used auxiliary NASA archival site, it is clear that these scenes were lit with artificial light. These shadows, which are cast at different angles, are evidence that a second light source is being used. In addition, the sun would not cause an isolated hotspot like this, only an artificial light would. Again, intersecting shadows and another hotspot. And again. And again. It is simply impossible for this picture to have been taken with sunlight on the moon. Here, the shadows are shown to be as black as pitch. And yet here, completely in a shadow, the astronaut is lit up like a Christmas tree. How can this be? Or this, on the shadow side of the lunar module. In this magnification of an Apollo photograph, a rock, very likely a papier-mâché prop because of the crease here, is categorized with the letter C. In later releases of the same picture, the letter is gone, probably airbrushed out.
This is from Taiwan to Los Angeles, and Hawaii's out there kind of in the middle. Right about here, there was a medical emergency. Where would you land if you were the pilot?
Hawaii.
Right, or maybe go to Los Angeles. Instead, they went all the way up to Alaska.
What?
Why did they go to Alaska? The answer is because this is the route. Taiwan,
oh shit.
Emergency, Alaska. Hawaii is all the way out here. This is the actual route that they take.
never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics. I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the solar corona what stars we could see.
I don't remember seeing any.
The sky is a deep black when viewed from the moon, as it is when viewed from cislunar space, the space between the Earth and the moon.
And we could not see stars.
It's not
Which
a
is the
black
cool thing.
void. I mean, it's black, but there's all kinds of little polka dots.
There's all the stars there, and the cool thing is about it, you can see it during the day.
And when you're in space and you're looking into deep space and you're on the sun side of the orbit, the sunlight washes out all the starlight, so you can't see any stars, just like here on Earth.
There's all the stars there, and the cool thing is about it, you can see it during the day.
Yeah, you can, and there's more than stars. You can see planets. You can see moons.
You see the gas Magellan clouds of the
you
Milky Way
see
galaxy.
the Magellanic.
The sunlight washes out all the starlight, so you can't see any stars, just like here on Earth.
Pretty much all the time you can see the stars.
Then when you look out into deep space away from the sun, it's the darkest black you can imagine.
Pretty much all the time you can see the stars.
Everyone agrees that the sun gives off its own light, right? Great, common ground. But what a lot of people don't realize is that the moon gives off its own light as well. And this can be proven by the fact that moonlight is measurably colder than sunlight. For example, take a thermometer out on a cloudless night, and the temperature will actually be warmer in the shade than in the moonlight, which is the opposite of what we experience during the day. If the moon was reflecting the light of the sun, this would not be the case. It would be warmer in the moonlight, albeit considerably less than during the day. But if it's reflecting the same light, the properties of that light should be the same.
Yeah. So the fact that they destroyed all that data.
Yeah, it speaks to the cover-up of a crime. I just want to give people sort of my top 5 anomalies that make me believe it's highly unlikely that men were sent to the moon. And in fact, this was a production sold to the American people and sold to the global population as massive propaganda. Here's the first one, the Van Allen radiation belts. And number 2, Bart, landing the lunar module.
Someone apparently forgot to create a burn crater underneath the lunar module's 10,000-pound thrust engine, despite the fact that during ground tests there was a real concern for the vehicle falling into the hole the engine created as it descended. Not even one speck of moon dust on the landing pod. As a result, all subsequent flights had to have the same discrepancy, which was explained away by the effect of no atmosphere.
And they were never able to land it successfully in tests on Earth. Number 3, the audacity of telling us they brought a rover, a dune buggy, to the moon. I mean, are you serious? They had this thing down so perfectly well, and it was so easy and so risk-free that they brought the extra added weight of a dune buggy so they could tool around on the moon. It's absolutely preposterous.
The cost of the 3 moon rovers in 21st century currency? Nearly $60 million each, though they had fewer parts than a Jeep. Where was all this money going?
Number 4, background mountains in many of these pictures are identical, and it's impossible for them to be identical. Here's one with the lunar module. And then here's the same mountain shown with no lunar module. And number 5, the Apollo 11 post-moon landing conference with Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins, and Neil Armstrong, where it feels a lot more like a funeral than a hero's welcoming of 3 men that just landed on the moon.
When you looked up at the sky, could you actually see the stars and the solar corona in spite of the glare?
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics. I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the solar corona what stars we could see.
I don't remember seeing any.
Some people say it's hard to believe that the moon landings were faked. I say it's hard to believe that they were real. What NASA is claiming is that they went 1,000 times farther than they can go today with 50-year-older technology on the very first attempt with 1/1,000,000th the computing power in all of NASA than is in a cell phone. All the proof that you need that the moon landings are fake is in this one picture. In sunlight, shadows will always run parallel with one another. This is because the sun is about 1 million times bigger than the earth, and it casts shadows in the same direction over an entire continent. So you'll see in sunlight, shadows always run parallel and never intersect. Here's a picture which the federal government claims was taken on the moon. The astronaut shadow runs at 12 o'clock, and this rock, only about 5 feet away, the shadow runs at 9 o'clock. This is a 90-degree difference from objects 5 feet apart from one another. This proves that this was taken on Earth with an electrical light inside of a television studio. This is all the proof that you need that the moon landings were fake. If Toyota said that they made a car 50 years ago that could go 50,000 miles on a gallon of gasoline, and yet today their best car could only go 50 miles per gallon, or 1,000th the distance, wouldn't the fraud of the previous claim be obvious? And yet this is exactly the moon landing fraud, and yet people don't see it because of their emotional attachment to it. They're claiming they went 1,000 times farther 50 years ago than they can go today with 50-year-older technology. That doesn't make any sense. It's the only time in history that a technological achievement like the automobile or the airplane or nuclear power, that no nation on earth could repeat it 50 years later, when in fact it should be 100 times greater 50 years later. If they could go to the moon with 1960s technology, men would be in another solar system by now. Men would have walked on Mars 10 years later, 40 years ago, which never happened. And there would be bases on the moon there today, of which there are none. It's the only time in the history of the world that technology that cost $175 billion was deliberately destroyed afterwards. Would Bill Gates spend $175 billion to make the first computer, and then when he was done, throw it and the schematics in the trash? But that's what NASA claims that they did.
First thing a lot of people say is, where's the edge? Well, look at this map where Antarctica is a 360-degree ice barrier that holds the water in. These ice walls are real, and they stand 150 feet above the surface of the water. Then you need to understand that there is no independent access to Antarctica. Average people can only go there on a guided tour. It has no towns, no cities, and no permanent residences. What's past the 150-foot ice wall is anyone's guess. How far the ice extends, how it terminates, and what exists beyond it.
Was the exact same color as the sky. We had to wear thick, heavy going outside gloves to handle it. The stuff was so cold, it would instantly freeze your skin if you touched it. I don't remember what the temperature he said it was, but it was something like hundreds of degrees below zero, way colder than the normal ice that was outside. He had to carry it in a metal bottle that was kind of like a thermos. He let me play with the piece of it for a while. It felt lighter than a piece of normal ice of the same size. Like it wasn't very heavy at all. It almost felt like you could throw it up in the air and it would just float back down. But I didn't try that. And it was also a little flexible when I tried to bend it. It didn't break like normal ice would. And even for a small piece, you could see through it. It was solid blue right from the surface. And here's the really weird part. It didn't melt into water. When it got warm, because we had it inside, it just started to shrink. It got smaller and smaller, but my glove never got wet. And there was no water on the floor. The stuff just turned into thin air when it got warm and vaporized. He said that was the reason why they had to study the stuff right there in Antarctica. You couldn't take the sky ice back to America to study it because it was almost impossible to keep it cold enough during transit. And then they shared a verse right here where it says, "And above the firmament that was over their heads was the likeness of a throne as the appearance of a sapphire stone. And upon the likeness of the throne was the likeness as the appearance of a man above upon it. And then we continue off where it says it would always vaporize into air and you'd have nothing left when you got back to the U.S., he said. Russian scientists had discovered the same problem when they tried to take the ice back to Russia. So that was why they all had research stations in Antarctica. After maybe 15 minutes of handling the piece of sky ice, it was almost completely gone. Just a tiny little bit was left, and my glove was dry the whole time. I'd never seen anything like it before or since, and that's unusual because I've always had an interest in scientific things. I think that's even why I got selected to go to Antarctica, because a big part of the interview was about science and what I believed about things. So I really thought it was cool to see something I'd never heard of before. The whole time I was at McMurdo, I heard people talking about the wall like that was a special place. It's pretty common to find ice walls and ice cliffs all over Antarctica. The whole place is ice, but it's all just normal white or clear ice. So I asked my friend where they get the sky ice from, and he said it comes from the wall.
So there I was, just minding my own business, looking at Google Earth, and this big snow-covered monstrosity is staring me in the face like, why is that covered in snow? I look into Ireland and some other areas around it, Iceland. Ireland gets snow only once a year, 1 day a year. So I keep digging a little bit deeper, and I finally get underneath this cloud cover here, and a few images pop up. And I say, oh, images, what are they? Well, this is what you got, which I'm sure that looks familiar to you, right? Looks just like the pictures they give us of Mars. So I'm just kind of creeping around here and definitely noticing the same kind of undulation changes and same kind of rock, same kind of dirt. Only thing that's missing is that nice little red tint that they pay somebody $150,000 a year to put on there. But those mountains, those rocks, definitely exactly like we see on Mars. So I say, I wonder what they're doing out here. What is all this equipment for? I'm sure it can't be NASA, right? Whose orange Hummer is this? Okay, that looks like a NASA symbol. Well, let's dig a little further because I can't really see anything on here other than certainly looks like a NASA symbol. And I can't read that. Tried. So this one here said, roving the Arctic. So what is that? Doesn't make any sense. So pop in here. See if we can find anything. Again, same kind of mountains. That looks like the same kind of water I've seen before that I thought was water on Mars. Who knows? Zoom in. What's that? Oh, nothing. Just looked like it was funny. So I'll keep kind of going through here and see if it... What the... Yeah. So, I think I found out where Mars is, guys. It's just about 1,000 miles north of me. Not quite the distance that NASA says, but I can't find anybody who's in charge of this. They must be hiding behind these rocks. Oh no, there they are out in front of everybody, just standing there. Lovely. Clown number 1, clown number 2, and clown number 3. Yeah, this is very empty here. Oh, there's one of those ATVs. All right, now we're on to something. Oh, I got another truck. Oh yeah, it says NASA. What's that say? Mars Project?
One of the most common alleged proofs quoted for the spherical Earth theory is the Eratosthenes sticks and shadows experiment. Many people may remember NASA spokesman Carl Sagan presenting this experiment by using a map of Egypt with 2 obelisks attached and showing their resulting shadows. The story goes that around 250 BC, a Greek mathematician and philosopher named Eratosthenes noted that at noon, during the summer solstice in Sienne, the sun cast no shadow, and the rays could reach straight to the bottom of his well. Yet, meanwhile, in Alexandria, a vertically standing metal rod cast a significant shadow. Eratosthenes, Carl Sagan, and other globe proponents reasoned that this result is impossible on a flat Earth. To quote Carl Sagan, "If at a certain moment each stick casts no shadow at all, that is perfectly easy to understand, provided the Earth is flat. If the shadow at Sienne is a certain length, and the shadow at Alexandria is the same length, that also makes sense on a flat Earth. But how could it be, Eratosthenes asked, that at the same instant there was no shadow at Sienne and a very substantial shadow at Alexandria? The only answer, he claimed, was that the surface of the Earth is curved." After reaching this conclusion, Eratosthenes then famously factored the length of the two shadows with his assumed distance to the sun and recorded a measurement of the globe Earth's circumference close to what heliocentrist astronomers still use today. The fact of the matter is, however, that Eratosthenes, Sagan, and others are simply incorrect in their assumption that this would only be possible on a curved Earth. In reality, the exact same results occur on a flat Earth with a local sun. Eratosthenes' calculations were made assuming the sun to be millions of miles away so that its rays would fall perfectly parallel even in points as divergent as Sienne and Alexandria. Anyone familiar with the phenomenon known as crepuscular rays, however, knows full well that the sun's rays simply do not fall perfectly parallel, especially at such distant points, rendering the entire argument moot. Furthermore, using sextants and plane trigonometry, by measuring the sun's angle at 2 points on Earth simultaneously and factoring their distance from each other, the Pythagorean theorem reveals that the sun is not millions of miles away, but instead less than a few thousand. High-altitude balloon footage has also filmed lighting hotspots on clouds, further proving the sun to be local and acting as a spotlight. Therefore, if globe believers wish to be honest, they must admit it is their faulty assumption that only a distant sun with parallel rays could produce such results, which has led to their faulty conclusion of a curved Earth, because flat earthers have always maintained that the sun was local, and the very existence of crepuscular rays render the entire experiment invalid.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
All right, let's talk about science. Science is a man-made institution that's been trying to prove that God doesn't exist since its formation. There is real science, and then there is pseudoscience. Real science is testable, observable, and repeatable. Pseudoscience is just a bunch of made-up BS that people want to believe. That is the globe model. That is evolution in the Big Bang. And that is the religion that you have bought into. There are over 200 verses in the Bible canon that proves flat Earth. Not to mention the Apocrypha does flat out say it. So who are you going to trust, God or science? Because gravity is still actually labeled as a theory, because it's not testable, repeatable, and observable. It's not like the heat patterns on Earth only work on a flat Earth model and make no sense on a globe. And then the fact that eclipses only make sense on a flat Earth model. Plus that pesky little fact that basic photography proves they're lying about the curvature of the Earth. Then all the thousands and thousands of photos that show the sun getting smaller. That doesn't make any sense. Real science is perspective, and that is observable, testable, and repeatable. I'm sure this is just a coincidence. Nothing to see here, folks. And the fact that plane flights don't make any sense on the globe model whatsoever. You should look up all the videos of pilots coming out and saying that it's flat. And then there's all that Luciferian globe math. Nothing to see here. By the way, this is just tip the iceberg stuff. And then there's stuff like this. NASA's not exactly the biggest fan of Jesus. Also, you should research Operation Paperclip. NASA is nothing but a bunch of literal Nazis. They all came over here after the war and started NASA. Do you trust Nazis more than the Bible? And we don't even have to go to space to prove flat Earth. We just have to go to Antarctica. Funny fact, they won't let us go there. Despite all the many conflicts on Earth, every single country has agreed to guard Antarctica from anybody. Nothing to see here. It's not like in Luke 4, Satan says he owns this Earth. And then there's the fact that Satan's called the God of this world. I'm sure he could never lie to you. But just for funsies, let's talk about this. You can believe God created everything in 6 literal days. You can believe God allowed a donkey to speak. You can believe a man's bones brought a dead guy back to life. You can believe a man's hair gave him superhuman strength. You can believe a guy survived in the belly of a whale for 3 days. And here's my favorite. You can believe a guy was born of a virgin, performed a bunch of miracles, walked on water, died, was resurrected, and shot up into space like Superman. But flat Earth is just a little bit too much for you? Fred, you are one of my loyal followers, brother, so I wanted to share the story of why I believe flat Earth. I know how crazy it is. Trust me, I know how crazy it is. My major in college was biology. It was almost astronomy because I loved space so much, but I didn't really know what I would do with an astronomy degree. Funny story, I never used my biology degree either. But that's neither here nor there. I loved space. Loved it. Star Trek, Star Wars, all the ancient alien stuff. I mean, that was my jam. Even before I was a believer, and well after it. But about 3 years ago, it all kind of changed for me. I had fallen really deep into the truthers movement. And there was this Christian guy. It was mostly like Trump stuff back then. But I followed this really good Christian guy who put out a bunch of information, trying to expose all the lies of the world and so on. Well, one day he starts putting out flat Earth stuff. And I was like, great, you're a psychopath. Now I have to unfollow you. But because I respected this guy, I was like, okay, I'll look into it for you because you seem like a really good person, trustworthy person. I'll look into it. Fully expected to prove this guy wrong, by the way. It took me 8 months of diligent research before I was willing to plant my flag on this one. There was just so much overwhelming evidence when you finally tapped into the sources to find it. It took me a few months to even find any usable information, though. Turns out later it's because the government actively admits that they censor it. They don't want you to know about all this stuff because it completely disproves their godless, Big Bang, evolution, nonsense universe that they've created. And they're a bunch of sun-worshipping pagans who put the sun at the center of the universe. Shocker there. I understand why you don't want to look into this stuff because it destroys your mind at first. I mean, such a big lie, such a life-changing lie. But they are capable of anything. Have you guys ever watched a movie? I mean, really, you think a TV show is capable of putting out graphics like that, but NASA couldn't lie to you? NASA, who takes $50 million a day in taxpayer money? And NASA, who has a dedicated movie set on their facility? They're good friends with Hollywood. Shocker there. Anyways, this is all I ask. Use DuckDuckGo to search for Flat Earth Makes Christians Look Stupid by Rob Skiba. Watch the Level 2021 documentary on BitChute. And watch this documentary by Founded Earth Brothers.